Great always to welcome new players and newcomers and players who will own the future, I would say. So it's great, yeah, to welcome Alexandra here in Linz in this special year, and it's also our first time that we play on clay. So
We know how the crowds are when Eala plays wherever she plays in the world. If Eala's going to win this one, she needs to be patient. I reckon it might be a little bit of a struggle. Grabher playing at home and also with that experience on clay, I think might get her a set, but I think Eala's going to win in 3 in the end and get to that second round.
The stadium Julia Grabher thought was hers when Julia Grabher learned she would open her tournament on home soil. The expectation was simple. The crowd would be hers. The cheers would carry her name. The energy of a home stadium would do what it always does: lift a player, steady nerves, and tip the balance in her favor. None of that is happening. Instead, Austria is witnessing something that no one in professional tennis quite anticipated at this scale. Alex Eala is arriving, and her fans have arrived first. Reports confirm that a remarkable 90% of tickets for the Grabher-Eala first-round match sold out almost instantly, and the vast majority of those seats were not filled by Austrians rallying behind their own. They were filled by Eala supporters who made a deliberate, organized decision to show up in force. The result is something quietly extraordinary: an Austrian player competing in her own country, preparing to walk onto a court where the loudest voices in the building will be cheering for her opponent. That is not misfortune. That is a complete reversal of one of sport's most cherished advantages. Home advantage in tennis is tangible. It lives in the familiar surroundings, the crowd that knows your history, the wall of sound that rises behind you on a break point. Grabher has leaned on exactly that throughout her career: the comfort of representing Austria in front of people who understand what that means. On this occasion, that comfort has been replaced by something far more challenging: the task of competing at full intensity while an entire stadium wills someone else to win. The psychological weight of that should not be underestimated. What makes this story remarkable, however, is not simply the numbers. It is the intention behind them. Eala's global fanbase has not stumbled into prominence. They have built it, match by match, city by city, with a level of coordination and devotion that the sports observers are still trying to fully process. They research schedules, organize travel, purchase tickets early, and show up wearing the same colors with the same voice. In Austria, they have done it again, and the tournament is left adjusting to a reality it did not see coming. For Grabher, the challenge ahead is clear. She must find a way to compete at her highest level inside a stadium that, by every emotional measure, belongs to someone else. That is an enormous ask. But it is also the measure of how far Eala's presence has already reached, not just in results, but in the rooms, the rosters, and now the home courts of the players she faces.
and it's also our first time that we play on clay.
The Eala Effect arrives in Austria. Sandra Reichel has not tried to hide her excitement. The director of the Ladies' Linz Open, a tournament marking its 35th anniversary this year, has been vocal about what Alex Eala's presence means, not just for a single match, but for the entire event. Reichel acknowledged that Eala is bringing a level of attention, energy, and fan engagement that is transforming the tournament from the inside out. She confirmed that Eala will be placed on the largest available court, and that the atmosphere surrounding her match will be unlike anything the event has seen in 3.5 decades. She even stated that she would personally welcome Eala to Linz, a gesture that speaks volumes about the weight of the moment. Great always to welcome new players, Reichel said, players who will own the future. It is a warm and generous statement. It is also, for Julia Grabher, an incredibly difficult one to absorb. Every headline, every word of praise, every camera and spotlight is pointing in one direction, and it is not toward the Austrian player competing on her home ground. Grabher is watching the excitement build around her opponent in her own backyard, without a single headline to her name in this story. That is the kind of situation that tests a competitor's mental foundation long before the first ball is struck. But for those who have been following Alex Eala's season, none of this is surprising. This is simply the latest chapter in something that has been gathering momentum for months. Earlier this year at Indian Wells, Eala announced herself to the wider tennis world in a way that left organizers scrambling. The demand for tickets to her matches was so far beyond what anyone had projected that prices surged to extraordinary levels, ultimately generating an estimated $5 million in sales from a single match. One match. The figure rippled through the tennis community and forced everyone, players, directors, analysts, sponsors, to pay attention. Tournament staff had not seen anything like it. They adjusted on the fly, and the conversation that followed introduced a phrase that has since become part of the sport's vocabulary: the Eala Effect. It refers to what happens when Alex Eala enters a tournament. Ticket sales climb. Stadiums fill to capacity. Media coverage intensifies. The economic and cultural footprint of the event expands in ways that are measurable and documented. And it is not slowing down. If anything, each tournament adds another layer to it. On the court, the results have matched the attention. Eala has been in outstanding form all season, defeating players of genuine stature, including Coco Gauff, one of the most recognized names in women's tennis today. Those results have given her growing fan base something real to celebrate, and they have responded by showing up louder, in greater numbers, and with greater organization than before. Jessica Pegula, a seasoned competitor who has played in front of packed and passionate crowds throughout her career, offered perhaps the clearest picture of what playing against Eala actually feels like. Walking into her match against Eala at the Miami Open, Pegula expected intensity. What she encountered was something she had not experienced at that level before, a crowd that was not simply watching, but living every point alongside Eala, reacting to every rally and every winner with a ferocity she described as unlike anything she had seen. She noted that whether the venue is the Australian Open, the Dubai Tennis Championships, or Miami, the crowd support surrounding Eala consistently reaches heights that most players never touch across an entire career. If a player of Pegula's experience can feel the full weight of that atmosphere, the question becomes unavoidable. What will Julia Grabher feel when she walks out onto that court in her own country, hears the roar rise around her, and realizes with absolute certainty which side of the net it is meant for?
Always to welcome new players and newcomers and players who will own the future, I would say. So it's great, to welcome Alexandra here in Linz in this special year, and it's also our first time that we play
a movement, not just a match. Very few players in the history of professional tennis have been asked to navigate something like this on home soil. What Grabher is walking into is not simply a difficult first-round draw. It is a phenomenon, one that has been building steadily across continents and tournaments, and has now arrived in full force at her doorstep. The economics are being studied. The ticket data is being examined. The crowd numbers are being tracked. And without exception, every metric is pointing toward the same conclusion. What Alex Eala is generating in tennis right now cannot be reduced to rankings or results. It is something broader, something that extends far beyond the baseline and the scoreboard. It is a movement, fueled by genuine passion, remarkable loyalty, and a growing community of fans who have made supporting Eala a mission rather than a pastime. Tournaments are not simply hosting her. They are being reshaped by her arrival. The atmosphere shifts. The energy changes. The attention that follows her from city to city is transforming what these events look and feel like, and the conversation around women's tennis is expanding because of it. For Grabher, the task ahead is unlike anything her career has prepared her for. She is not walking into a tennis match. She is walking into an environment where the crowd, the noise, the momentum, and the emotional current of the stadium are aligned against her, and she must somehow rise above all of it and compete at her absolute best. That is an extraordinary thing to ask of any athlete. On home soil, it is even more so. Austria arrived at this tournament expecting a familiar, celebratory moment. A home player, a supportive crowd, the kind of match that reminds everyone why local pride in sport matters. What Austria is getting instead is something it did not plan for and could not have predicted. It is getting an Eala moment. And as the tennis world has come to understand, week after week, court after court, those moments leave a lasting mark on everyone fortunate enough to witness them. What does this phenomenon say about where women's tennis is heading? Can Grabher find the resolve to silence a crowd cheering for someone else in her own country? And is there any ceiling at all on what the Eala effect can become? The conversation is already well underway, and it shows no signs of stopping.